morning, folks. Everything new under the sun. I'm going to take a look at an article. This is from breakingisraelnews.com, and it's very interesting. And it's actually an article from, I think, 2017 is the actual date of it. I want to start off with scriptures, though. This is from BibleHub.com, and we're reading in Daniel 9, chapter 9, speaking of the 70 weeks and the last 7 years of the world, of the 6,000 years of man on this earth. Speaking about the Antichrist and the abomination of desolation and basically the 7-year tribulation. 70 weeks are determined upon thy people and upon thy holy city to finish the transgression, to make an end of sins, and to make reconciliation for iniquity, and to bring an everlasting righteousness, and to seal up the prophecy and vision, and to anoint the most holy. Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and build Jerusalem until the Messiah shall be 7 weeks, and 62 weeks. The street shall be built again, and the wall even in troublous times. And after 62 weeks shall the Messiah be cut off, but not for himself. And so that's the death of Jesus Christ, being cut off, and the city rebuilt. And the people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary, and the end thereof shall be with a flood, and unto the end of war desolations are determined. And then verse 27 kind of skips ahead, and speaking of the last 7-year period, and he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week. This is the traditional 7-year tribulation that we speak of. And in the midst of the week he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease. So what does that mean? If he's causing the sacrifice and oblation to cease, that means there must be sacrifices going on in the third temple, in a temple. But this is speaking about the third temple, as it's speaking about the 7-year tribulation, the final week. And for the overspreading of abominations he shall make it desolate, even until the consummation. And that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. So we know in the last days, Daniel 9 gives us the hint, the understanding that in the last days, in the 7-year tribulation, in the middle of it, there's going to be a temple standing, and sacrifices are going to be going on. And so likely those sacrifices and the third temple is built at the beginning of the 7-year tribulation, and that's what convinces Israel as a nation to agree to the peace plan, which is presented to them at the beginning of that. And that peace plan, of course, enforced by the Antichrist. So we get to this article here, which is interesting. let me move this image here. I have some portions highlighted here that I want to take a look at. And there you have the Dome of the Rock in the background. And this is important because this Dome of the Rock currently stands on the Temple Mount right now. The End of Days Muslim Mission on the Temple Mount is this one. I'll link this in the description. But it goes on here, Christians and Jews and Muslims have been battling over mountaintop land in Jerusalem for centuries. Recent attempts at a rational political negotiated solution have ended badly. Perhaps what politicians should do is reference prophetic sources which describe in great detail the end of days temple agenda for all concerned, because the Bible speaks of a time when the temple will be there. And that's going to be part of the process that convinces Israel to get excited about it, really, I think, and get it in their minds so that they come around to a place where they actually build it. It says, when most people think of the Temple Mount, they consider one building, the Golden Dome of the Rock, built by the Muslims in the 7th century. And so many Jews believe that the temple, third temple, has to be in that place where the Dome of the Rock sits. Of course, they can't tear that down without causing World War III. The Temple Mount compound is actually quite large, comprised of 144,000 square meters. That's an interesting number, 144,000 square meters. There will be a remnant, 144,000 Jews left over to be a witness for God in the last days. That's an interesting number. Most of it either empty or covered by trees. So this is a Temple Mount, the top level. The area, most of it is empty or covered by trees, and most of it is not covered, obviously, by the Dome of the Rock. Though Israeli and international law mandates allowing equality of religions and universal prayer at the site, the Israeli police cite security reasons for restricting the right to pray only to Muslims. So they prevent Jews going up there just because of the hostility, just because of the potential for the Muslims to riot basically against the Jews on the Temple Mount. So they prevent Jews from doing that. In a rare display of Islamic pluralism, and this is from a 2017 article, this was in the Muslim Times, it noted that there is certainly room at the site to create a worship space, even a third temple for the Jews. This is a Muslim Times, Muslim article, Islamic article, and the editor was Dr. Zia Shah, and he suggested a multi-story structure to maximize space. So this is the Muslims themselves suggesting that, you know what, you can build a third temple beside the Dome of the Rock. You don't have to tear the Dome of the Rock down or cause any trouble there. They'll just section off a place for the Jewish people, the Jewish religion, to have their own temple, and then they can have it. And this is, fascinating. Every Jewish, Christian, and Muslim denomination that has a sizable presence in Israel gets a floor in the plaza free of charge as their synagogue. So each major religion gets a spot on the Temple Mount, basically is what it's saying, where as their synagogue, church, or mosque, and in return they provide a public relations campaign to make the project a success. The state of Israel gets to choose the leaders of those denominations, giving the state Netanyahu some stake in the process. Again, this is an article from 2017. It's unfortunately, it says, there is no way in Islam to accept such a plan. Dr. Kedar told Breaking Israel News, the essence of Islam is that Judaism and Christianity are no longer relevant in the world. The reason Islam exists, it says, is to replace them. And I mean, isn't that the understanding of any religion, that their religion is the exclusive one, and that all the others are fake, basically? And that's the claim of Christianity as well. That's the direct claim of the Bible and of Jesus, is that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, and no man gets to God except through Jesus. And so that counts out Judaism, that counts out Islam. Jewish sources describe that in the end of days, the descendants of Ishmael will have a place and a purpose on the Temple Mount. A surprisingly detailed description of the messianic process is given in the Zohar Hadesh, a collection of previously unpublished manuscripts pertaining to the Zohar, printed in the 16th century, it says. The Zohar Hadesh describes a process that will begin in the 274th year of the 6th millennium, interestingly. This works out to be, according to their calculations, the year 5774 in the Hebrew calendar, which began September 2013. Now, I don't know about these dates. These dates don't really add up to me. The greater interest to me in this article is the idea that it's the Muslims that are suggesting that, the Temple Mount is big enough and there could be a place of worship for all the major religions, fascinatingly. So you can read this article. I'll link it in the description, but it goes on and speaks about the situation there. Terrorists that have terrorist activity in 2014 that seems to fulfill the prophecy, etc. But it goes on and speaks about it. But it's certainly fascinating that there is a prophecy, and there are articles and Muslims actually pushing and suggesting that the Jews can set up their third temple beside the Dome of the Rock. So fascinating stuff happening there, and that's from 2017. So how close are we now? And how easily could this be put in place as soon as an Antichrist figure comes and presents this to the Jewish people, saying, look, you can have your own place of worship on the Temple Mount. Agree to this peace plan, and the Antichrist will enforce the peace plan. And therefore, once they can agree to it, they can set up the third temple, and they can do it quickly. They have the building materials ready to go, and they can start their sacrifices right away. And this leads into the middle of the 7-year tribulation, where the Antichrist then comes in Daniel 9 and ceases the sacrifices. This sets up the period of time where the Antichrist then actually goes ahead and stops the sacrifices in the third temple, and then sets himself up as God and sits on the throne, and this causes the abomination of desolation in the middle of the 7 years. So pretty fascinating stuff, guys. Again, this is an article from Breaking Israel News, and time is getting short. The Lord's returning soon. We are getting into crunch time. We're getting into the last, I think it's 2.5 years prior to the 7-year tribulation. I could be wrong. I don't think we're 20 or 30 years out from the return of the Lord. I think the year 6000 is in the year 2028, and you come off that for 7 years because the 7-year tribulation has to occur in some fashion there. be fulfilled. And that comes up the year 2021 for the general start, plus or minus year, of the 7-year tribulation. And I believe prophetic events happen in quick succession. So once these things start going down, they're going to start going down really, really quick, and we're not going to be able to deny them at that point. Although the people who don't believe and don't want to believe will be given a strong delusion. So even though the signs are obvious and directly fulfilling Bible prophecy, these people aren't going to want to believe in it. So another article there proving that we are in the last days, time is close, and the Muslims are even on board with this, building um, temples and allowing each major religion of the world, monotheistic anyways, to build a temple or a place of worship on the Temple Mount, and not having to tear down the Dome of the Rock. There's lots of space on that Temple Mount for the other major religions of the world, Judaism and Christianity. And so I think that's what's going to be pushed by the Antichrist. He's going to say, look, you build your temple there, we'll have peace and harmony, everybody will have their own place of worship, and this will kick off the 7-year tribulation, which I believe starts in about 2.5 years, 2 years from now. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll leave it there. We'll see you guys in the next video.